everybody, welcome back to my channel and to another video. So today is a slightly different video than I've done before. I thought that I would do some vlogs of like just getting to know me a bit better, like giving you a bit more of a backstory about our family and like me and things. So I decided, I mean, I've had 3 children, I've given birth 3 times. I thought it might be a good vlog to tell you about my first pregnancy and my first birth story, and it's a positive one as well. And I feel like when you have a baby, I mean, no one scared me, but like there's always horror stories that you hear about like these terrible births and things, and if you have had a bad birth, that is your story, and tell it, please tell it, because it's your story. But I feel like maybe sometimes if you're having a baby for the first time, it can be quite scary and daunting, and hearing a positive birth story might actually be quite good. And I was very fortunate in that I had 3 very positive labours and birth stories, and they just got easier as they went on. So I thought I would tell you about my pregnancy and birth when I had my first baby, who was Zach, who you all know. And if you don't know, if it's your first time here, my name's Claire and I've got 3 children. I live in Hampshire in the UK, and yeah, I do all sorts of vlogs like grocery hauls, meals of the week, family vlogs, day in the life vlogs, doing a lot of daily vlogs at the moment, and I've just started up my own business as well, so my vlogs are about that as well at the moment. So yeah, so when I got pregnant with Zach, I was 24. And Gareth and I had decided that we wanted to try for a baby. We were both married and things, and we had a nice little house. And we tried for 6 months before I got pregnant with him. I'd been on the pill for however many years it is from when you turn 18 to 24. I've been on the mini pill, so I knew it was going to take a few months for my cycle to come back. I came off the pill and didn't get pregnant right away, and I thought I might get pregnant right away because I was quite young and everything, but it didn't happen. About 5 months in, I got a bit down about it, which I know is nothing compared to some people's stories where they try for years for having children or have to go through fertility treatments. But for me, I was just like, well, why hasn't this happened yet? I want to get pregnant. And I was doing all the right things. So and then Gareth said, look, you're worrying about it too much, you're thinking about it too much, that's probably why it's not happening. And he was right. So I thought, you know what I'm going to do is I'm not going to worry about that. It will happen when it happens. I'm going to go to the gym and focus on other things, because once I do get pregnant and stuff, those are things I won't be able to focus on. So I did that, and then bam, I got pregnant. So 6 months after trying, I got pregnant with Zach. We didn't know that he was a boy until he was born. We didn't find out the gender with the first one. I don't regret that, but I feel like it's going to sound so strange, but let me know if you feel the same way if you didn't know the gender of your baby. I felt like when I gave birth to him, the baby they gave to me was so different from the baby that I thought was in my belly. Like it just, because I didn't know he was a boy or a girl, I wasn't expecting a boy or a girl. I was expecting one or the other, but I had no gender preference. I've never had gender preference, to be honest. So I just didn't care whether it was boy or girl, but I just found it so bizarre that like I couldn't relate the baby that was in my belly that I could feel moving around to now having this human like that was inside me. Yeah, that was, and I think maybe, and I don't know whether when I had the other 2 it's because I'd already had a baby before, but because I also knew with my second and third their genders, I was able to give them a name, and it made more sense, like the connection between inside and outside was there. I don't know. But anyway, so we didn't find out whether he was a boy or a girl. My pregnancy was rough. Like, I say I've got positive birth stories, but my pregnancy stories are not good. I suffered terribly with morning sickness, and I was signed off work for about 6 weeks in the end because my sickness was just so bad. Yeah, it was awful. I also suffer from ulcerative colitis, touch wood, that I haven't had problems with it for a while, but I'm just gonna grab my drink. But when I was I've got pajama bottoms on, so just so when I got pregnant with Zach, I was having a bit of a flare up with my colitis, and it got really bad to the point where, like, not to share too much information, but it's an irritable bowel disease, colitis, and when it's playing up, you pass like blood and mucus and things, and and you need to go to the toilet quite a lot, like quite urgently. So that was playing up as well. At the point where I was going for my 12-week scan, I was on the toilet that much and suffering that much, like passing like blood and stuff, that I just wasn't expecting there to be a live baby in there, because I thought, how can anybody be on the toilet? I know it comes from a different place, I know that, but I thought, how can anybody be on the toilet being this poorly, plus have terrible morning sickness and the colitis? I was so expecting to go into that ultrasound and not find a baby there, like a viable baby there. But there was, he was there. And, you know, I said to my doctor, she signed me off. She kept signing me off whenever I went back, because I couldn't, I felt, I wasn't throwing up all the time, but I was feeling really sick and nauseous all the time. And I was also throwing up, but not like throwing up to extremes that some women do. I didn't have to be hospitalised or anything like that. But I just felt incredibly sick, and the colitis on top of it just drained me completely. And she basically, like I said, I didn't want to be a baby there. And she just said, the baby is fine, and the baby takes all the goodness from you, and then you get left with whatever else is there, and you're suffering, but your baby's fine, like the body is amazing like that. So we went for my 12-week scan, and that was wonderful. Because of my colitis, I was consultant-led care, because I was a slightly higher risk of pregnancy, purely because they were worried that the baby may be a lower birth lower birth weight, due to the colitis and things. So I had to go, it was lovely really, because I had to go for extra scans and extra hospital appointments, which made it more special in a way for us, because we got to see Zach a couple of more times. We got some extra pictures than like I had with the other two, because I wasn't as such high risk, even though I was still under consultant. So I had some extra checkups and things. My migraines and headaches were quite bad with my first pregnancy. As I've gotten older, it may change when I go through perimenopause and stuff when I'm a bit older, in the few years to come, but my headaches and things have gotten less, and my migraines have gotten less than they used to. And with each pregnancy, the migraines and things seem to get a bit less. I do remember Charlie having quite a few. I'm going to do a separate video about Charlie and Lily. So I did suffer with migraines during my first pregnancy, and I do remember one time just getting home and making it into my back garden in time just to throw up. And then one time getting home from work, because at the time I worked about a 40-minute drive away from where I lived, or half an hour drive away from where I lived. And one time I got home just in time, made it to the bathroom and just threw up in the bath, basically, because I couldn't lift the toilet seat up. Like that was just awful, like the headache and feeling sick and stuff. So I suffered with that. So my pregnancies were not easy. Didn't enjoy being pregnant. And also, like my first baby, that's when my varicose veins started, which was lovely as well. So not great pregnancies, but I did enjoy being pregnant, because I knew I was having a baby and everything, and I liked eating everything I wanted. So I didn't hold back on that front. I literally just ate whatever I wanted, and probably ate for two. Although I didn't gain that much weight, like you couldn't tell I was pregnant for quite a while. For a while I just looked a little bit podgy, until I really popped. But even then, I was just a bump. And his scans showed that he was all baby and not much water. So there was that. And then when I went to one of my consultants' appointments, she said that he had a big head. And I was like, what? She went, no, that's good. It means he's got a big brain. And I thought, no, it means I've got to push that head out. So, yeah. So then that's how the pregnancy went, basically. Right, so when it came time to actually have the baby, what they said, they didn't want me to go too overdue, because I was consultant in care and colitis and stuff. They didn't want me to go too far over, so they were going to induce me. I was desperate not to have an induction, because I didn't want that. I'd heard it made things more painful and could lead to complications like needing an epidural and forceps and blah, blah, blah. Not because of the induction, but if you have an epidural, it might be more likely that you'll get too tired or something and then need forceps. I just didn't want, I wanted as little intervention as possible. I wanted to go into labour like fairly naturally. So I had my date for the induction on the 21st of April, I think it was. And Zach was born on the 16th of April. His due date was the 17th. I went in for a sweep, a cervical sweep, I think it's called, a membrane stretch or whatever it's called, on the 15th. And luckily I was able to have one, like everything was good down there, so they could do the sweep. And then on the way home from the doctor, I started getting some mild contractions. So I got home and I called Gareth, I said that I think I'm going into labour. And I called my nan and said, I think I'm starting to have this baby. And that evening, Gareth came home from work, and I was like, well, we should probably go buy a car seat then, because we haven't got a car seat for this baby, and it's coming, because our car seat was the one we'd gotten we'd given it from a friend, it was too big for the car, the seatbelt wouldn't stretch around. So there I am in early labour, and we headed up to Mothercare and bought a car seat for the baby, and they were like, so when's your baby due? And I was like, oh, I'm in labour now. And the guy was like, oh wow. So yeah, we took the car seat home. We also went to the range and got a big thing of pick and mix for me, because you know me and I love sweets. So I was like, well, it's my last day before I have a baby, I'm having all the pick and mix I want. And we went home and just had dinner and stuff, and I was like, early labour, didn't sleep an awful lot that much. I remember laying on the couch watching a programme for a lot of the night, in and out of sleep, and eating pick and mix in between, basically. Gareth was upstairs sleeping, because he just said to me, please don't go into like proper labour in the middle of the night, I just want a good night's sleep before I have to take you to hospital and help you give birth, basically. And luckily we managed that 3 times. So in the morning he woke up ready to go to work. His mum had said, well, I'm working from home today, why doesn't Claire come stay here? Because like I was still in early labour, there was no point in him staying off work. But his mum was like, well, maybe Claire doesn't want to be on her own. I think my mum was working at the time as well, so I was going to go to Gareth's mum's house, and that way we were near the hospital as well, because we didn't live near the hospital that I actually gave birth in, and we were in a different area, but I wanted to give birth in the hospital, and they let me. So the plan was for me to go and stay there, so she could like keep an eye on me and help me, and then Gareth's close by, and everything's close by if I needed to go. And then I sort of thought, oh, I need the toilet, like a number 2. Went and sat on the toilet right before Gareth was about to leave for work, and my waters went all out in the toilet, and I went, I don't think you're going to work today, because my waters have just gone, so we need to call the hospital. And then they said, well, yeah, okay, you need to be in the area. So just a little bit of context, we moved out of the area where like our parents lived, or still live, but I kept my doctor's surgery because I was working in the area and everything. So when I had all my appointments, it was with my doctor's surgery, and I was referred to that hospital. So I called the hospital, and they said, look, if you're going to have the baby, you kind of need to be not 40 minutes away, you need to be closer. My mum ended up not going into work that day, because she was also in the room with, like, she was birth partner as well as Gareth. And so I went to her house, and she stayed off work, and I kind of early laboured there. And when we didn't. We went to hospital, they checked me, and they said, like, you're 2 or 3 centimetres, you can go home, take some paracetamol and stuff. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm not taking paracetamol, I'm having a baby. I'm gonna need something small, like stronger than that. But I went home anyway. And I think she also said I could take cocodamol, and I remember thinking, no, I don't want to take anything that's going to make me feel strung out. And now I take cocodamol a lot for my headaches, they've been prescribed to me. But honestly, I was so strung out on Gassner and Pethidine by the end of it, it didn't really matter. But anyway, so we went home, and my mum was like making people sausage sandwiches and everything. And then Gareth went to the toilet and was on the toilet for a very long time, like men do in sometimes. And my contractions were getting worse and worse. And I was like, we need to go to the hospital now. Like, I need to get there because I'm really in pain. And Gareth was on the bloody toilet, wasn't he? Stuck on the toilet. And I was like, will you tell him to finish and get off the toilet? I'm having a baby. I need to go to hospital. And I was on the phone to my nan in America, and I was like, Nan, will you tell him to get out of the bathroom? I need to go to hospital. And like, my mum had made me a sandwich, and I couldn't eat it. So I was like, bring it with me. Let's go to... So we eventually got into hospital. And they were like, yep, you're staying here. You're starting to be in active labour or whatever. And put me in a room. Now there's 2 suites at the hospital. Because I was in a consultant care, I had to be in like the labour ward. I couldn't go to like the nice, not the nice, it's all nice, but like the baby unit basically, because I was under a consultant. And I don't know what would happen. Like, I don't know what would happen. I mean, she wasn't there. She wasn't there, the consultant, but yeah, I was under a consultant care, so I had to be in the labour ward, which actually worked really well in my favour, to be honest. I managed to get... So we were there, I had gas and air, and it was portable, the gas and air, which was good, because it meant I could... contractions on the toilet were awful. I do remember, because where I was, I didn't have my own bathroom. There was toilets outside, like, to share with the other rooms. And it's all been renovated now. It's not like that now, but it was with my first baby, with Saki. And I needed to go to the toilet, but every time I needed a wee, I'd sit down and there'd be a contraction. And there's no, for me, the worst position you can be in when you're having a contraction is sat on the toilet. And like, then they were like, would you like us to get you some gas and air in here? Because we can do that, it's portable. And I was like, yes, please. And then I was on the gas and air, and that was wonderful. And that was my longest labour, to be honest, from start to finish. Like from when they count you as being in active labour to when you have the baby, that was 10 hours, and apparently that's quite good for a first labour. And I got to a point where I was like, oh, I think I want a bath. So I had a bath, and I remember laying there with the gas and air and like going through the contractions and things, and my mum was talking to me, and Gareth was in there like pouring warm water over my bump, like when I was having contractions, to try and soothe it. But the water just isn't as warm enough that I need it. It's like lukewarm, and I like a hot bath. And they said, you can't have a hot bath because you're having a baby. I was like, okay. So by that point, I was starting to not manage. And it's kind of all a blur now because I was high on gas and air. I do remember, I don't know if it was before or after I had the bath, but my sausage sandwich that my mum had bought with me, I was eating it, and then I was having a contraction, and I hadn't finished the crusts, and Gareth was about to take them away from me because he thought I was finished, and I was like, I'm still eating that. And the midwife went, never take food away from a lady in labour. And he was like, oh, I thought you were finished. I was like, I want the crusts. So yeah, I must be a bit of a nightmare when I'm having a baby. But yeah, then I was in the bath, and I said to my mum, like, I'm going to get out now, I can't cope anymore. I said, I don't want an epidural. I didn't go into my first labour with a birth plan. I think that it's silly to have a written, but have an idea. My advice would be, have an idea of what you want and don't want, but don't expect it to go to plan, because things happen. And that's what I was like, I don't want an epidural, but I don't know how I'm going to cope with this because I've never had a baby before, and anything could happen. So I went in just very open-minded, like, see how I get on, and then we'll see the next step, and then we'll see the next step. So I said, look, the gas and air isn't cutting it now. I need something else. I don't want an epidural, but I want to know what the next step is for pain relief. So my mum went off and said to the midwife, and she came back and said, well, yeah, that's fine. Let's check you, and then we can get you some pethidine, because they'll give you pethidine, but not if you go too far, apparently. Like, you have to be a certain point, otherwise they won't give you the pethidine, because it can affect the baby. So I was 7 centimetres when they checked me. So I managed to get to 7 centimetres just using gas and air, which I thought was a pretty good achievement. And then I had the pethidine, and I think I went to sleep for a little while. I was in and out of sleep. I remember being very off my face. Like when I had the gas and air, everyone's voices sounded really slow and deep, and my lips and my hands felt giant and swollen, and it was just really surreal. And then when I had the pethidine, I was just flying high as a kite. And then my nan was in Florida, and I was in the bed. She was propped up here on the iPad on Skype. My mother-in-law was on this side, I think with my sister-in-law as well at one point, watching things that were going on. They weren't down the business end, but they were up. So I was having a little bit of a chat with both of them as well. I remember telling my mother-in-law I really wanted a roast dinner, one of her roast dinners. So she was like, okay, well, I'll have you around for a roast dinner next week then, when you got the baby and everything. And my nan was like in Florida and things, and I think at one point my father-in-law came on and went, oh, what are you talking of? What's going on? He went, they said, oh, Claire's the neighbour, and he went, oh, and then he walked away. So yeah, my labour was broadcast to the States and to my mother-in-law, and then I think, yeah, so then it was time to push, basically, and it took me an hour and a minute to push him out. I do remember seeing that on my birth notes, an hour and a minute to push him out. And it was painful, but it was painful. There's no two ways to say it. It was painful. And the only thing I can try and describe it as feeling is like pushing a concrete boulder down, like out of you. That is how it felt. And then there was one point where we had several changeovers of midwives as well. And I wasn't on any monitors or anything because the baby was quite happy. I did find it a lot easier because we were in a hospital bed. I was kind of like this, leaning on the back of it like that with my gas and air whenever I had contractions. And I found that to be a much better position for me. And then at one point I said to Gav, like, it started to hurt way too much. And he said, I think this is going too quickly for you now. You need to turn around so you can slow it down a bit because it was getting a bit intense. And the midwife said, yeah, give that a go. And then when it came time to push, I was like in the usual position, on your back like that, having a baby, without getting too graphic for Facebook, for YouTube, I mean. So yeah, it came time to push and it took an hour, and she said like he didn't get caught, but it's like with your first baby, because it's like a little bit of a bend, I think. This is what I remember, given the fact that I was high as a kite and having a baby and what was going on. It's just like going around like a little bit of a bend, and because I hadn't done it before, it was taking a bit longer. So yeah, but eventually I got him out, and he was £8.2, and he was lovely, and he was a boy, and we were going to call him Elvis. We hadn't told anybody the name we'd chosen. We were going to call him Elvis, and then a couple of days before we had him, we were laying in bed, and I said, do you think maybe we should choose a backup name in case we don't think he looks like an Elvis when he comes out? And so we chose Zachary, and Gareth was very insistent that it was Zackary, not the traditional spelling, because it just made more sense to him. So I was like, well, that's fine. So I had him, and then I was like, brilliant, I've managed to do this, just gas and pethidine by myself. I didn't want an epidural, didn't have to have an epidural. And then I had a little bit of a bleed, and that's as dramatic as it gets. I had a bit of a bleed because the placenta came away, but a little bit of it didn't come away at first, and they thought they were going to have to take me to theatre to remove the last bit of it. So I had like the lowest amount of what they can consider as a postpartum hemorrhage or something. It was like the lowest amount, like 500 mils or something, and that's what I lost. I think I'm remembering all this correctly anyway. If anybody is a midwife and can tell me otherwise, then let me know, but this is what I remember that they said to me. And all I thought was, oh, for God's sake, I've got this far, I've had the baby, I've done it without an epidural, and now they're going to have to give me an epidural to get this stupid bit of placenta out. But it came out and it was fine, and I didn't have to, and it was all okay. So I just remember the midwife being there at the end of the bed with a little hedge lamp on, to get, checking that everything was okay and things were all intact. I think they did show me Zach's placenta as well. Gareth cut the cord. My mum videoed the whole thing. She actually recorded the whole thing, yeah, and took pictures. I think she was just picturing, not videoing. She took pictures, which have since gotten lost because she was taking them on my sister's camera, my youngest sister's camera, who at the time was doing photography, so she had quite a good camera. My mum was like, well, I want to document the birth of my grandson and my grandchild and things, and I didn't care what was going on, to be honest. But yeah, my mum was like, oh, he's so beautiful, I can see his head coming out, and I was just like, I just want to get this baby out of me now. And I also, something that not everybody talks about, I went to the toilet a lot when I was pushing, because you're pushing in that area. So if anyone is having a first baby or they're worried about that, it happens, and the midwives don't even mention it. And the only thing that was quite funny was Gareth went to put something in the bin, and he went, oh, someone needs to change that bin back. And I just remember thinking, oh God, I can't even help it. It's not even my fault I'm having a baby. But yeah, so that also happened with my first one, which didn't happen with my other two as far as I'm aware. But yeah, that was just every time I pushed, then that happened as well. So God love the midwives. They are just so good at dealing with everything, and it doesn't even faze them. So yeah, that is like the birth story of when I had Zach. I've waffled on for quite a long time, to be honest. And then I'll tell you what happened immediately after as well. So because Gareth and my mum were in the room, and my nan and everyone on Skype, like, they all said goodbye. And then everybody came down to the hospital. My mum, my mum was already there, my sisters, my sister-in-law, Gareth's sister, Gareth's mum came down, everybody came down. I do remember I was still quite high as well. Zach wouldn't feed either at first, and he was quite sleepy, and they thought that was the effects of the pethidine on him. He was very sleepy. He just wasn't interested in doing anything for the first couple of days apart from sleeping. And then when he did find his voice, he didn't shut up, and he cried for like 4 weeks solid, and it drove me crazy. And it took him like for 3 weeks to get the hang of breastfeeding. I was on the verge of quitting, like giving up and putting him on the bottle. And then I saw a breastfeeding lady, and she sat with us for like 2 hours and got him to breastfeed. And then, like, luckily he really took to it. And then I was able to breastfeed him for just over a year, which was amazing. So, but yeah, right after the birth, I remember, because I obviously had the bleed, I was all messy. My sister, bless her, she was there like wiping my feet and things because it just got everywhere, and she was like cleaning my legs up for me, which is a really lovely thing for a sister to do. And then I went off and had a shower and everything after everybody had gone home and stuff. So we didn't really have any time on our own, just us three, to be honest, which is the only thing that I wish we did have, because we were both so shocked at becoming parents. It's just, it rocked our world. We had never been parents before, and it was such a change. Neither of us knew what we were doing, had no clue what to do with a baby, neither of us. I'd babysat, but only for like toddlers. I'd had no experience with newborns. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. And I was just like completely shell-shocked. Like, I just had no idea. And I remember I went off to have a shower, and I was shocked that I was allowed to have a shower on my own, because I was like, well, what if I faint? But I was allowed to have a shower on my own. And I do remember thinking that the skin on my thighs and my bum felt saggy, like loose. And I think it's like where all the water would come out. And I thought, oh, I really hope that goes back, because it felt like a saggy elephant skin. But it did go back, luckily. So don't worry about that, if you are pregnant watching this. And yeah, so as I was walking back from the shower, I heard a baby crying. And I thought, oh, that's my baby. And in the back of my head, I thought, I'm going to be hearing so much of that. Like, I'm hearing so much of that. And yeah, I was just, yeah, he cried a lot. He cried a lot in his little newborn days. And I'm smiling about it now, but at the time I was tearing my hair out, and I did go and moving with my mum until he was about 8 weeks old. I just went back and forth from my house, packing up things and going back and staying at my mum's with my sisters, and Gareth came and stayed there too, and because it was a nightmare. I really struggled. But yeah, maybe I'll elaborate on that when in another vlog maybe. But yeah, so that is my birth story and my pregnancy journey with my first baby. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I hope that it's you're never going to get rid of the fact that labour is painful and it's hard work. That's why they call it labour. But it's nothing compared to raising kids, let me tell you. But yeah, it's a positive birth story, and I will let you know what my other two are like in another vlog. I do hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know down below. I love reading comments and like how other people's births went. So let me know how your labours were and things like that. And I'll see you in the next one. I'm sorry, I've got an itchy nose. And I will see you in the next vlog. Take care, everybody. Bye.